Hello everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. I have put together some of my scraps from recent projects, my blue scraps and my yellow and orange scraps, and I thought we would make something. I do have an idea, and the first thing that I'm going to do is iron some of these pieces and then square these up into 90-degree angles. I should say squares, rectangles, and half square triangles. So I might put two triangles together to make a perfect square, and that would be okay too. But let's do this part and then we'll see what's next. I have my pieces ironed and now I want to start pairing some up. So I'm going to pair the blues with the blues and the yellows with the yellows. I have my binding clips here, which I use for everything. I will attach a binding clip. This is just to keep these together. I'll put this aside, and that way I know these two pieces to go together, and I will sew along that edge. And what I want to do, let's put the triangles aside for a second. What I want to do is match these up by length. So these are about the same length, and let's put those two together. I'm not going to pair all of these pieces up, but let's pair some of them up. We're going to sew them together. These go nicely. We're going to sew them together, iron them open, and then see where we're at that point. But I'm going to go ahead and pair, let's pair some of these blue ones. I'm going to go ahead and pair a bunch of these up and sew them together. Here is my pile of pairs that will not get mixed up because they have the binding clips attached. I'm going to go ahead and sew those up. Here are the pieces that I have put together and squared up. What I want to do is start putting some of these pieces together. Like I could do something like that. Or adding an additional piece. So for example, here's my stack of fabric over here. I could add something. This one's too long, but add another piece from my stack over here. I'm going to put these two together. And let's see what else we can do. So I have some that are rectangles or squares, and then I have other ones that, where are they? Oh, here, they're the half square triangles. So I think these came out pretty good. And I could even put some of these together, maybe like that. Let's put that one together. And maybe these two. This one I don't have another half square triangle to pair it with. Let's see what else I have. Let's add a strip. The other thing, I do have some other half square triangles actually, but what I decided about these, I put all these together, is that these were just a little bit too light. I really liked all these kind of darker blues, and these ones just didn't fit, besides that one, of course. So I'm gonna put these ones aside for a different project. Let's add this one on here, like that. And lengthen, make this a nice long strip by adding another piece to the other side. And I'm just going to put these right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch, iron that open. We can add this polka dot strip onto here. And these fit together nicely. Let's do that. And that's it for our blues. Let's take a look at the yellows. We have less yellows than blues. I love this little sun peeking out there. This is a pretty small piece. Let's add this piece onto it. I want to take a look at our half square triangles here and see what we have. I guess we have 3. Let's maybe do that. And then add this orange piece on here. Now we have a bigger half square triangle. That fits nicely. Let's put these ones together. And these ones, we'll put this piece onto here. And once I have these sewn, we'll have to square these up again. And maybe this piece onto here. It's a little longer than the other one, but I think that's okay. And here's the last piece. Let's take this one and we'll put it onto here. I'm going to sew these up and then square them off. And then we'll talk about kind of the next steps. Ultimately, what we want is we want to have 9 pretty large pieces of the yellow and 8 pretty large pieces of the blue. And here are the blues all squared up. So I'm gonna just keep going and adding more and more pieces and squaring them off just like we did until I have the size that I want. I'm not sure what that size of the blocks are yet, but I will tell you in just a second. Here's the yellows. I think these are looking pretty good, especially like that one. I love the little suns, really fun. And I typically don't like same patterns touching, but in this case, I think it actually looks pretty cool. So here they are, and I will tell you, ooh, look at that little one. By the time this seam allowance gets put on, it's not really gonna be very yellow, but I still think it'll work, it'll be okay. So I will tell you in just a second what size we want our blocks to be. I've created my blocks here and I've made them to be a little bit bigger than I need them. I'm gonna trim them down. To do what I'm thinking I wanna do, you'll need 8 blocks of the yellow that are 4.5 by 4.5. So let's just take a look at these. And again, I need to trim these down and they can really go any which way. The suns in this one are really fun with the big pop of orange there. I think these came out really great. They were incredibly easy to do. And it's using just the teeny tiniest scraps. They're a little bigger than what you would consider crumbs. And I don't love that this one is so much lighter than the other ones, but I started to run out of options, so I did use this. But this one, you know, I can cut, when I cut it down, I can cut some of this part off here. This one is number 7. There's the half square triangle that we made. And the last one, 8. Then you need a bigger yellow piece, 8.5. So these ones are 4.5 by 4.5, 4.5 square. This one is an 8.5 inch square, and a bunch of little suns peeking through, which I think is just the most fun. I love this big piece. Then for the blue, you'll need 4 blocks that are 4.5 by 8.5. So again, I'll trim these down. I'm going to give them a nice iron and trim them down. These are the 4.5 by 8.5 blocks, 4 of them. And one more of these. There. Then you need 4 blocks that are 4.5 inch square, but I made a mistake and I made too many blocks. I made 6. So I'll show you all 6 and then I'll just pick the 4 that I like best. So you need 4 blocks of blue, 4.5 inches square. I think this one is one I'll definitely use. They're just all really fun. And I did notice that, you know, using the dark fabrics worked better than trying to also include some of those lighter blue fabrics. Here are 2 of the half square triangles put next to each other. And polka dots right in the middle. This is kind of has a log cabin feel, even though that's not officially what it is. And there's the last one. So I'm going to trim these down, give them a really good iron, pick 4 out of the 6 of these, and then show you what I'm thinking next. I've trimmed all my pieces and I've begun to lay them out here. What I've done is I put on the top and the sides the 4.5 by 8.5 inch blue strips with the yellow 8.5 inch square in the middle. And then in the corners, I have put the 4.5 inch blocks, just like this. So what I'm gonna do next is kind of remove the corner pieces here and take my yellows. I'm gonna take 4 of the yellow 4.5 inch squares and put them right sides together and put them in one corner of each block, right sides together. Next, I'm gonna take a pencil and a ruler and I'm gonna draw a line from the outer corner to the inner corner for each of these yellow blocks. So from the outer corner to the inner corner. Then you're gonna sew along each one of those lines. So you'll be sewing on the diagonal. For example, you'll go from the outer corner to the inner corner, draw your line, and then sew right on that diagonal. So what we're doing here is we are creating flying geese. I'm gonna open this up just to make sure that I sewed that on correctly, and I did. There's my seam line on the diagonal, and I'm going to put my ruler to cut off the back triangle here. And we'll use these pieces in a minute for something else. But I'll iron this open and then do that for the other three. I've laid my blocks back out here, and we're going to do the same thing only to the other side. So we'll put a yellow right sides together and draw a diagonal line from the outer point to the inner point, and then sew right along that line. Once that line is sewn, we'll trim off the back part of our triangle and iron it open. I'll do that with all four pieces. As you can see, we have a beautiful star or sun here. I think this is looking really great. So we're going to now start putting these pieces together. I have my clips so that I can keep track of what pieces are going with what. But let's put this piece right sides together, and so 1/4 an inch around this side here. So these ones together on this side. So the clip helps me keep track of which sides I'm sewing together and which pieces I'm sewing together. And then let's sew this side right here. And this one will just be on its own for a minute. These are sewn together, and so now I'm going to sew these two together on the right hand side. And this top piece to the middle piece, right along this top edge here. Our star is now in 3 pieces. We're going to sew these 2 pieces together along the right hand side. And our final seam will be to sew the bottom piece to the body of the quilt block, 1/4 inch along the bottom here. Here is the finished block, but I do want to do 2 more things. First being, I think I have enough of these strips to go all the way around the block, which would just give a little bit more breathing room for the star. I might have to piece a couple of these together, but I think that'll look cool. So I'm going to do that. And then the other thing is we have all of these triangle pieces from the leftovers when we cut off our flying geese units. And I think I want to try sewing a blue and yellow triangle together for all of these. And then I'll have some really cool blocks. I think these will make neat blocks, and I can put them together in various ways. So I'm going to do those 2 things. The other thing about the main quilt block here that I want to mention is that I do always press to one side. I don't press open. And a lot of people say that when you get to these teeny tiny pieces that it just creates a lot of bulk to sew them to one side. But I think it's okay. Here's the back of my block. And you can see not everything is pressed, perfectly. This one kind of got wonky. But you can still press to one side even with teeny tiny pieces. Here's our finished block. I think it's looking really good. I'm very pleased with it. I think my favorite part are, where's the suns? There's the awake sun peeking up, and then the sleeping sun. And then I also love this part with the half square triangles kind of in a curve there. So this, I think, super successful. I also put together these half square triangles with the leftover pieces from the flying geese. And I really think these could be cool as well. You could arrange them in, in all kinds of ways. I'd probably do something maybe like that. Kind of like that. But these are them. I'm going to put pictures at the end of all these things so you can see them a little bit better. But I have 8 of these blocks here. And then we also have these 2 that I had made accidentally. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope this gave you a little inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.